One of the special places in all of our homes is the kitchen table, the dining room, wherever the family gets together and shares meals, they share life. And the table that families would gather around in Jesus' day were a little different than our kitchen tables or our dining room tables. They were more like this. And today we're going to let this table teach us something very important about a story that Jesus told in Luke chapter 15. It's the story of two sons. And the younger of these sons, he couldn't wait to just get out of town. He was tired of being the young one in the family. And so he decided to go and ask his father for the inheritance. And you can imagine asking his dad for the inheritance. It was scandalous. I mean, what he was really saying is that, Dad, I wish you were just dead so I could go ahead and, get my inheritance and then get on with the life that I want to live. Now, in Jesus' day, the younger brother was entitled to 1/3 of his father's estate. 2/3 would go to the older brother. But this younger brother, he wanted his 1/3 of the dad's estate right now so he could move on with his plans. A lot of fathers would have heard something like this in Jesus' day and felt that it was so insulting and uncaring. They might even run the younger son out of the home. But this father, he decides to divide his estate and give his younger son the inheritance. Now just think about what that meant in Jesus' day. I mean, people didn't keep their money in banks, but what people had, their estate was their property, the cattle or the sheep or the livestock. It was in the things that they had built and businesses that they had built up. And this father would have to liquidate so many things to be able to give his son the 1/3 of his estate. But he did. So what the father did was he gave his son 1/3 of his estate. Makes a difference, doesn't it? Of course, the young son, he was happy. He had gotten his inheritance. And he set off for the far away land that he wanted to go to. And of course, with all of his money, he was very popular. In the far away place, far away from his family. Well, his money went very fast because everybody took advantage of him. And the story also says that there was a famine that hit the land during this time, and the younger son found that he had nothing. And the only job that he could find was taking care of a landowner's pigs. And he was nearly starving to death himself. And the younger brother, he thought to himself, what am I going to do? So he thought to himself, and he says, in my father's house, there's plenty of food to eat. And he says, I need to come up with a plan. And this was his plan. He decided he would go back to his father and he would say to him, Father, I've sinned against God and heaven, and I've sinned against you. Please take me as a hired hand. I don't need to live at home with the family. I'll just take a wage. I'll go into town and live there, and I will work to repay you for all that I have squandered and lost. And that plan seemed to be a good plan to him. So next he took off and he was traveling home, and he was still quite a distance away, and his father saw him. And his heart was overjoyed, and he began running back running to meet his young son coming home. He had joy in his heart. As he came up, he threw his arms around his son. He kissed him. He hugged him. And he barked orders to the servants that were right behind him and said, get a robe and put it on him. Get a family ring and put it on his finger. Put sandals on his feet. And kill the fatted calf. Because we are going to celebrate, because my son has come back to me. So the father takes him back. Sheer grace, the love of this father for his son, brings him back, and he reinstates him as a son of the family. Well, that seems like a pretty good story, right? I mean, that's a wonderful ending. Oh, wait. We forgot one other character in this story. The other character in this story is the older brother. Now, the older brother had been out in the field, and he had been working for all of this time when the younger brother came back. And as he came back to the house, he heard all the celebration, the laughter, and the singing. And so he asked one of the servants, he said, what's going on? And he said, your brother, he came back home. And when the older brother heard this, he was furious. He can't believe it. And the servant said, and your dad has killed the fatted calf? Everybody from the town is coming to celebrate? And the older brother said, I can't believe it. I'm not going in. This brother of mine who has taken such advantage and hardship to our family. So the father, when he hears about this, he goes out to the older brother. And he says to his older brother, he says, why don't you come in? And the older brother says, this son of yours, he has taken your inheritance and he squandered it in wild living. And I'm not going back in. He refuses. So the father, he comes and he pleads with him. He says, son, please come in. Your brother who was lost is found, who is dead. He's alive again. And he pleads with him and he says, I have been with you always. He says, everything that I have is now yours. All the 2/3 that it's now the Father's and what's the family is left with, it's all going to be his. But the older brother, he refuses. You know, at this moment, the audience that was listening to Jesus tell this story, they're on the edge of their seats. Because what's the older brother going to do? Is he going to come back in? Is this family ever going to come and be back together? And Jesus doesn't finish the story. He's trying to teach them that both the older brother and the younger brother, they were lost and disconnected from their father. Both of them wanted their father's things, but they didn't want the Father. The heart of the Father, who is God, the heart of the Father is always seeking to bring his sons and his daughters home. So if you are a younger son, a younger daughter, or if you are an older son or an older daughter, you need to come home. Come home to the Father.